Good evening to each of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Give you a moment to come on into the room. Thank you so much for joining us for our homeownership program orientation. We will definitely honor your time and go ahead and get started and also wrap up. So by way of introduction, I am Candace Turner. I serve as the Director of Homeownership here with Maggie Walker. I will pass it on to, let's see, Flora.
Hi there. My name is Flora Valdez de Pena. I am the communications coordinator for the CLT. Really quickly, at the top of our program, I would like to ask all of y'all to please turn your cameras off and keep your microphones muted when you are not actively speaking. I thank you for your cooperation, and I will pass it off to Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Munyon. I'm the home purchasing coordinator with Maggie Walker. So I work with prospective buyers and folks that are going through the closing process. Happy to have you all here tonight, and I'll pass it over to Shabana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shabana Shaheen. I'm the Stewardship and Engagement Coordinator, and I work closely with homeowners once they've become a homeowner through the program and keeping up with the community engagement side of things.
Thank you, team. So we'll talk a little bit, we'll give you guys just some insight on what we're going to talk about this evening during our session and time together. We will discuss CLT. CLT stands for Community Land Trust. So we'll talk a little bit more about what a CLT is and how we operate. We'll talk about eligibility and the benefits of homeownership through a CLT, since it's a little bit different than your non-traditional route. We'll also go over ground lease and how you can be a part of the program, and also selling your home if you decide to purchase through us. And then we'll also go over the application process, materials. Throughout this presentation, there are moments where you can ask questions. We also ask that you utilize the chat as well. And then another housekeeping rule. You will get this presentation emailed to you after this, but it will also appear on our YouTube page. So if you have any questions that are personal in nature, that you may need more of a specific answer, you'll see our contact information at the end of this session, and it will also be in the chat. Take that down and feel free to email us, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. We want to know a little bit more of who's here, who's in the room, and how you found out about us. So you should have had a survey to pop up, so feel free to answer that question for us and or utilize the chat. So tell us more about yourself and how you found yourself here. Are you purchasing a home, looking for a home, real estate agent, interested citizen? You're involved in affordable housing, and that could be as a realtor or a lender. And if there's another reason that you may find yourself here.
And if there are any lenders or if Jen is on the call, can you all come off mute and introduce yourself?
Good evening. This is Mary White with Town Bank Mortgage, and it's great to be here with everybody. This is a wonderful program, and these are great people to work with.
Good evening. This is Jen with Jen Cox Realty. I am the realtor with the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, this is Tanya Irizarry with Virginia Credit Union's Mortgage Lending Department. I am one of the loan officers that is able to participate in this program, and I am super happy to be here and know you guys are going to learn a lot.
Thank you all. Thank you, Tanya with VACU, Mary with Town Bank, and Jen Cox, our exclusive realtor. And I do encourage all of you to put your information in the chat as well. Okay, so do we have any feedback from that survey, Flora?
Yes, in fact, looks like we have about 3/4 of the folks here are interested in purchasing homes. We have our real estate agent, of course. We have a few interested citizens and other folks involved in affordable housing. So welcome to all.
Thank you, Flora.
And then a couple people introduced themselves in the chat.
Okay.
Theodore says, I'm interested in purchasing a home for myself. I'm a first-time home buyer and my mother told me about the program. Welcome, Theodore. Thank you for coming. And we have Miyoshi Bowling, who says, I'm a realtor who resides in Verina, and I came across the new 21 property subdivision that's being developed in the neighborhood. Interested in looking to affordable means to help my clients achieve home ownership.
Awesome. And I believe you mentioned the person's name is Theodore. Ironically, we have a parent and child who are in the process of purchasing. So we have a adult child who is an owner, and now that person's parent is also purchasing. So we're really excited to have you all here and to create community within this MWCLT community. Okay, next slide. So let's talk a little bit.
Oh, Candace, you just muted yourself. Not sure how.
Thank you. Feel free to continue to utilize the chat. And again, you can put your questions there. We'll get to them during our breaks. But I want you guys to know that while this program is a wonderful program, it is not the only route to homeownership. This is an alternate route. I like to refer to it as a way to play chess and not checkers, especially in this economy that we're in right now. So we have homes that are sold to qualified buyers. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in this presentation. But the purchaser or the prospective buyer is purchasing the home, and the CLT retains the land underneath the house. So again, qualified buyers retain ownership of the home, which is often referred to as the improvements, and they're leasing the land. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but the homes do receive permanent subsidy to stay below market value. So that's how the prices are so low. And you'll see that coming up in the next slides. Next slide, please. So, of course, this program is named after Maggie Walker. She is our namesake. We always take some time to provide education about Maggie Walker for those that are maybe not from Richmond, or for those that are from Richmond and don't know a lot about Maggie Walker. But Maggie Walker founded the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in 1903 right here in Richmond. Her home is right on Lee Street. And she was a wonderful businesswoman, presided over a bank, a lot of accolades to her name. What we want you to take away from knowing Maggie Walker through this organization is that she believed that everyone should have a chance, whether that is entrepreneurship or other opportunities like home ownership. And so we do this work in her honor. She believed in legacy. Part of this program is legacy, that you can pass down the house. It is inheritable. And so understanding that people of color have a harder route to home ownership, this program and organization was created with that in mind. So now you know a little bit more about Maggie Walker and who our namesake is. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about CLT. I'm interested if anyone has heard of a community land trust, and please feel free to utilize the chat to answer that question. But community land trusts are becoming more popular now, but it is a national model. And in fact, it is an international model at this point. But the first land trust was started from a grassroots perspective in the South, of course. The first one was New Communities Incorporated, okay? And it was started at a time where during the civil rights era, where African Americans were deemed if they were registered voters, they could not own their land. They were kicked off of their property. So it started with farmland, but definitely progressed after that. Okay, so this is what CLTs, again, community land trusts, were birthed out of, this understanding that having a seat at the table was very important, and making that impact from a racial, economic, and environmental justice perspective. Next slide, please. Okay, so what about home ownership makes you nervous or excited? I know we're all here to find out more about home ownership, but it can bring up a lot of feelings. What makes you nervous or excited about home ownership? And again, feel free to use the chat or come off mute and answer that question briefly. What makes you nervous or excited about home ownership?
And then answer the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk.
Sure, Brody. What makes me nervous about it? Really, it makes me excited to be able to say that I have a home and I could pass it on to my children. And
Awesome.
yes,
Thank you for sharing, Cheryl.
thank you.
Absolutely. I see in the chat, it seems daunting. That is a really real response. Thank you for sharing your truth. I'm excited about having a place for my son and I that is just ours.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Nervous about being able to handle the cost and upkeep. Absolutely. That makes all the sense in the world. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress. It also seems insurmountable, and I'm excited to try for a new place for myself. Absolutely. And this program was geared towards those feelings and realities of where we are right now. We'll get into that. So thank you all for sharing. Next slide, please. So let's look at a little bit more about where our program is oriented. So we are in all of these places. We are in Richmond, all areas of Richmond. We are in Henrico. We have some new projects down the pipeline coming in Henrico. And we are also in Ettrick, which is Chesterfield County. So we have just built our first subdivision in the Ettrick community. We are excited about that. You may have even seen that in the news. So these are some of our areas, and we're excited about having this. Next slide, please. Okay, so we talked a little bit about community land trust. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Again, CLT stands for Community Land Trust. We are a nonprofit organization. We are geared towards stewarding the land. And again, this is a permanently affordable home ownership program. And part of that is to ensure that there is long-term housing affordability. And so that is the basis and the foundation of this program, is to make sure that there's one hand pulling you into the program or into home ownership. And in turn, if you do decide to sell, you have a hand pulling someone in behind you. Next slide, please. So let's take some time to kind of build out what this permanently affordability is, and what that means now and in the future, okay? So when you buy a home on the conventional market, you are, of course, purchasing the house and the land beneath it. This is a little bit different because you are purchasing the house at a subsidized rate, which means the house that you're purchasing is significantly lower than other houses on the market, and the land in and of itself remains in the trust. So you would lease the land. You can use the land as anyone else would. You have the same rights and privileges to the land as another homeowner would. Well, when it's time for you to sell, you only sell the house and the land is never sold. The next homeowner will meet the same income qualifications as you would as a buyer, or as the purchaser at that time. And again, that references the one hand pulling you in and you in turn pulling the next person in. You would agree to a resale structure that really speaks to what I'm referencing, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And that is how the home is sold. Again, if you choose to sell your home, okay? So again, you purchase the home, you're leasing the land under a renewable ground lease, and then you would agree to a limited equity sales model. Again, that is if you decide to resell your home. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's also talk about why the program in and of itself is unique outside of the prices being much lower than what you would find on the market. Okay, so the first thing to keep in mind, and these are things that are standard in community land trusts, typically nationally. The first thing is that this must be your primary residence, okay? So let's say you meet someone and you decide to move in with them and you are living with that person and not living in your MWCLT home, you are then forfeiting the ground lease. And so this has to be your primary home. It cannot be an investment property. And there are exceptions to the rule that we can go by case, i.e. something like deployment. But the reason for that is that this is an affordable home ownership program. So your home that you purchase has to be your primary residence. In addition, renovations must be approved. By way of renovations, I mean anything that requires a permit. So if you want to change light fixtures, if you want to paint, you want to change doorknobs, even if you want to build a fence, those are things that you can do. Something like tearing down a wall, again, anything that requires a permit, we need to know about it and we need to approve those things. If you were to build something like a fence, we want to know about it just to keep be updated on what's going on with the home, but permission is not needed to do those minor repairs that do not require a permit, okay? Now, also keep in mind that you will build equity from your down payment, from your monthly mortgage payment, and your home's increase in value based on wages, or the AMI. AMI stands for area median income. We'll get into that a little bit more instead of the market, okay? So again, you will get equity in this model as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the ground lease that I mentioned. Again, you are purchasing the home and you're leasing the land. So basically, the ground lease is a legal document that restricts the price of the home. Again, one hand pulling you in, you're pulling someone else in. So the ground lease restricts the price that the home can be sold for, which keeps the home affordable. That ground lease is for 99 years, and it's intended to go beyond your life and probably, or maybe even that of your children, because again, this is a program set on legacy. So it's providing something that you can hand your home down if you so desire. Again, it is fully inheritable. What must also be noted is that your heirs do not have to qualify in the same manner that you had to as the initial homeowner, okay? So again, this is a fully inheritable home, and dare I say gift that you can provide to your legacy or your heirs. If they want to live in the house, they can. If they want to sell the house, they can sell the house as well. Again, that home would have to be sold to someone who income qualifies. So whether you decide to sell the home or your heirs decide to sell the home, the program particularities still apply. It still has to go to someone who income qualifies, who meets the income qualifications for that home to be sold. Lastly, keep in mind, the ground lease is $100 a year. Okay, so that can be paid upfront $100 or in $25 increments. Okay, so again, you're purchasing a home, leasing the land, but the land lease is $100 a year. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned that we are a nonprofit organization, and as such, all nonprofit organizations are governed by a board. Here you have just a breakdown of who comprises our board. We have 1/3 community members, 1/3 current homeowners, and 1/3 public members. We do have people on our board that are in the affordable housing sector. And as mentioned, we have current homeowners on the board. So if you do purchase and a home ownership seat becomes available, we welcome your input into the program and basically into the longevity of this program. Okay, so this is how we're governed. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about program eligibility. We mentioned that you must be income qualified. Again, we'll talk about that. Agree to the terms of the ground lease. We've already talked about that again, that you would pay that ground lease annually. And if you decide to move forward, we'll go a little bit more into that once you go through the process. But basically, it is saying that you'll be a good neighbor and take care of the property. That you will be approved for a pre-qualification for a minimum of $150 from one of our approved lenders. And I want to pause here because on our website are our approved lenders. We have 2 lenders on this call. Hopefully they have put their information in the chat already. You heard from them earlier today, Mary White from Town Bank and Tanya Izari. Tanya, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, and unmute yourself if I said it incorrectly, please.
It's close enough, Candace. It's
Irizarry? Irizarry.
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. And connect with them or one of our approved lenders to get a letter stating that you are approved. At the same time, I strongly encourage you, whether you use MWCLT as your route to homeownership or some other route to homeownership. Again, this is an alternate route. It is not the only route that you can take. And we will, in this presentation, talk about some other partnering agencies and other agencies in this field of affordability, housing affordability, that you may want to also check out, cast your net wide. You'll find that we are passionate about people pursuing their dream of home ownership, whether it's through us or otherwise. Having said that, you really want to talk to your lenders about a pre-approval letter, which will give you the ins and outs specifically of what you are approved for. So I want to note that. And again, you cannot own another home at the time of closing. Those are the program affordability notes that you want to keep in mind, okay? Next slide, please. So what we have here is basically what the program hinges upon. And these numbers we did not create. These are numbers created by HUD, Housing and Urban Development. And so we have 2 programs. One is 80% AMI. Again, AMI stands for Area Median Income. The other is 115 AMI. What that means is that these numbers are either 80% of the area median income, which is inclusive of Richmond and vicinity, or 115% AMI, meaning 115% of the people in Richmond, Henrico, and Chesterfield, this is what their income is, right, at that rate. Now, this is, you cannot go over this, okay? So this is a 80%, 115%. This is the income limit. So this is the ceiling of what someone can make. 2 people in a household, if they're at 80% AMI, cannot make more than $70,600. And if it's the 115 program, they cannot make more than $101,500, okay? So when we talk about program eligibility, and we'll talk a little bit more about the documents that you'll need, you cannot make more than these numbers, okay? Next slide, please. So we'll pause here to raise some questions, but Jen, if you can you tell us a little bit about this wonderful house that we have on the screen?
Yes, this charming 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. It was built in our Midlothian area, in the Midlothian area of Chesterfield County. This is one of our first models that features a downstairs primary bedroom, which we're super excited when this property was developed. We have hardwood flooring throughout, stainless steel appliances throughout the kitchen. Brand new home. This home sold for $180,000, and I partnered with Mary White from Town Bank to get this property sold. Do we have
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, you're welcome.
Are there any questions? Feel free to utilize the chat and I will check that or come off mute for your question. Jamie, I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. I have your information. We do have some information in Spanish that I would be more than happy to provide for you. Okay, let me see what else is in the chat. Okay, I see a couple of questions about 115. Okay, so let me answer that first. And Elizabeth, if you can go back to the last screen, please. So again, AMI stands for Area Median Income. We have 2 programs, and sometimes, depending on what county it is, they may have homes in both programs. Why is that? That is to meet people at different income brackets. Okay, so there is no difference in terms of what the houses are, how the houses look, what's in the homes, or even location. It's more so based on income requirements. That's the only difference between the 2. So again, 80%, you see the income requirements there, and 115, you see the income requirements in the blue shaded section. So these are numbers that an applicant cannot make more than. Okay. Now, if someone said, well, can you make $40,000 and still be a part of this program? That's something that you would have to speak to a lender to, because it's not just when you go to have that conversation with a lender about your approval, if you can be approved for a mortgage, they won't just look at your income. They'll look at what's called DTI, which is your debt to income ratio. So there are other factors that play a role in you as an applicant, not just on the Maggie Walker side, but more so on the lending side, okay? So there are some ways in which your lender is going to do some income verification and some checks and balances, if you will, to see how you income qualify and for how much. For us, we have specific guidelines, as any program that is in the affordable housing sector. And these are the guidelines. This is the main one, that people cannot make more than the numbers here. I also see I have clients who are already approved, but they have to apply with the preferred lenders in order to qualify. Yes. Let me explain why. The reason for that is lending and purchasing a home in a community land trust, where that person is purchasing the home and leasing the land, is a completely different product. And so the lenders through our program have, number one, completed the necessary training through Virginia Housing to be able to offer loan products to a CLT. And so they have done that and they're qualified to do so. So yes to the lending question. Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, I will also take down your information, because again, we do have information in Spanish, and I will get that to you, okay? And then we do have a question about commission structure affect pricing. That is a realtor question, And I'm not a realtor. However, I believe because there may be some follow-up questions from that for that, Jen, maybe you can answer that in the chat, unless you want to come off mute and answer that.
Well, yeah, sure. Andrea, can you, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Can you come off from mute and explain to me exactly what do you mean by the commission structure and how it affect the pricing of the property? Okay, Andrea, are you available to come off mute to ask your question?
Yes, I just wanted to know, will it help lower the rates? The rate of the pricing?
Okay, so that is totally separate. And we, just to kind of answer your question, the MWCLT is offering a commission, you know, when the properties are listed to the applicant. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, everyone. So please feel free to continue to utilize the chat for any questions that you have. And we will move on, and there will be other opportunities for questions as well. Okay, next slide, please. And I believe Elizabeth will speak a little bit more about how the program works.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna jump right in here to some examples of our CLT homes. So this is one of our homes that was sold in the Randolph neighborhood in Richmond. And this home, if it was on the conventional market, would sell for $34,000. So we make our homes affordable by putting subsidy into the home so that the price is lower. And so we use grants and fundraising to lower the sales price to the buyer. And with a lower sales price and removing the cost of the land from the equation, our home buyers borrow less, they have lower monthly payments and lower down payments than they would if they had purchased on the conventional market. So another unique thing about our program is that you do build equity through paying your monthly mortgage through your principal. And this here is a graphic representation of how your mortgage works. The blue box that represents your interest and what you are paying to the bank for your loan. So in the second year of having a mortgage, most of your money is going into interest, with only a smaller fraction of it going into principal. But over the time that you are in your home, so in this example, by year 25, assuming that you still have a mortgage, your money, most of that is going into principal and less into interest. So this concept is true for most mortgages, not just for CLT homes. Another part of your monthly payment is your escrow. So as a homeowner, you have to pay for insurance and taxes, and usually those are due every 6 months and can be a pretty large sum. But the bank wants to make sure that you pay your taxes and your insurance each month, because if not, you could lose your house. So instead of paying hefty sums twice a year, that amount is divided into small payments that you can pay monthly. And that becomes a fraction of your monthly mortgage payment and goes into an escrow account. And then that escrow account is used to pay the insurance company and your locality that you are paying taxes. So that amount, it can fluctuate year by year, but generally it will not fluctuate as much as rent would. Another unique thing about our program is that we operate as the land bank, and the land is tax exempt. So you will not be paying taxes on the land. So you are taxed on the improvements. So that's the However, there is state legislation that says that CLT homeowners cannot be taxed on the full market value of the home, and they can only be taxed on what they would sell the home for according to the ground lease. And this is another affordability feature that really ensures for permanent affordability. Maintenance. So you are responsible for the upkeep of your home and any routine and necessary maintenance. So you are responsible for fixing things like appliances, leaky roofs, broken windows, that sort of thing. And since you rent the land from the CLT, you are responsible for upkeep of that land as well. So that's routine things like mowing the lawn, taking care of dead trees, and you are allowed to use the land how you desire. So planting a garden, having chickens, as long as permitted by your local jurisdiction, anything that you would do that's allowed by your locality, you can do on the land. And additionally, there is a $100 ground lease fee that is annual, and that amount is not meant to be a burdensome amount, but it is what connects you as the renter to that parcel. And again, that is either due in a $100 annual payment or $25 4 times a year. Okay, I'm gonna allow this time for some more questions. Jen, if you would like to tell us about this home in Blackwell, that would be awesome.
Sure. Thanks, Elizabeth. As Elizabeth mentioned, this is one of our newly built homes in the Blackwell community. As you can see, it's a 2-story home, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. From the pictures you see here, we have hardwood flooring throughout, all stainless steel appliances. And I do want to add in the MWCLT also includes washers and dryers with most of our sales as of right now. New fixtures, sits on a corner lot, really nice home. This property sold for $180,000. I work with Marlon White from CNF Mortgage to get this property sold. And I forgot to mention on the first slide, but these homes appraised for well over $300,000. So it just shows, the affordability when you choose our model to purchase a home. So about $330,000 is home appraised for. We were able to sell it at $180,000.
Thanks. Let's see, are there any questions in the chat? If anyone would like to come off mute. If not, I will go ahead and get into the resale section. So one of the important things about our program is the resale and what happens if and when you go to sell your Maggie Walker home. So your home, when you purchase, you are agreeing that your home will be sold to an income qualified buyer and that the land remains held in trust. So when you go to sell, you are entitled to get back your home's increase in value. And that increase in value is based off of the percentage increase in the area incomes over the time that you are in your home. You are also entitled to get back your cash equity, so any type of down payment that you placed on your home at purchase. And then you are also entitled to your earned equity, which is any loan principal that you pay off by making your monthly mortgage payments. So what makes our program unique is that we use a resale formula to give homeowners a return on their investment while ensuring that the home remains long-term, affordable for future buyers. So we are balancing the benefits of home ownership with affordability for the Richmond area. So the way that we do that is we use the purchase price, which is the base formula, and then we add that to the increase in value in the area median income. So I'll get into an example of how that works in the next slide here. So how does my home increase in value? The way that this works is that we calculate the increase in the area median income over the time that you've owned your home. So in the example that I showed earlier, the home, when it was purchased, the AMI was $83,000. And for example, when this buyer goes to sell their home, we estimate that the AMI is around $90,200. And so the AMI increases on average about 2% annually. However, that has been increasing, but that amount is capped at 3% per year. So what we do in calculating the formula is that over the 5 years that this person was living in their home, the increase in the AMI was about $7,000 or 8.41%. So we multiply that original sales price by 8.41%, which equals $14,580. So your increase, the equity that you walk away with, which is based on the increase in wages, is that $14,580. And then you would also get away or walk away with any down payment and principal through your monthly mortgage payment. And though this has not been historically the case, if there was no increase in the area wages, you are still able to sell your home for what you purchased for it. So that's a very unlikely scenario, but the ground lease does protect you in that way. So on the traditional market, the home value, that is all based on market fluctuation. And that can be really good in a really strong real estate market where, like we're in right now, that homes are selling or marketing for very high amounts. But on the flip side, in really weak real estate markets, that is not sustainable and can be much more of a loss. And in the Maggie Walker program, home value is determined by this the wage amount, and that is a much less volatile market condition for our homeowners. So that is another benefit as well. So back to looking at equity, you build equity by paying your monthly mortgage payments. So in about 5 years, in this example, we estimated that the homeowner builds $15,000 just by paying their monthly mortgage payment. So in just 5 years of living in the Maggie Walker home, they have accrued $15,500 of earned equity just by paying their down payment, by getting their down payment back and any principal from the monthly mortgage payment, in addition to the increase of equity based on the wages. So that's that $14,580, which gives us a total of $30,080 in equity. And I like to show this chart, which visualizes the same estimated monthly mortgage payment versus paying that amount in rent. And over that same 5-year period, if this homeowner had been renting, they would have spent $72,500 in rent, but instead, during that same period, have accrued $30,805. So this model makes it possible to keep this home affordable for future families that may be in the same economic situation that you are in right now. So when you go to sell your house, we add the original sales price, we add the increase in value to that original price, and then we come up with the new price of the home that the future buyer will pay, which is $194,580, which, if you remember, is still significantly below the market value. So that future resale of the home is set so that another family will be able to purchase. And when then they sell, it will continue to be in the land trust, creating a reciprocal relationship. And I know that was a lot of information. We're going to take some time for questions, but first, Jen, would you like to tell us about the Fern home?
Yes, thanks, Elizabeth. This home was listed in our Henrico County, and this one was in our 115% AMI. This beautiful 2-story home features our second home that has a downstairs. Well, actually has a flex space. You can use it as a downstairs primary bedroom or as a sitting area. We have 2 full bedrooms upstairs with a bathroom. So we have 2. I'm sorry, guys. I've chopped this all up. Let me start over. This beautiful home is located in Henrico County. It features hardwood flooring throughout. We have a downstairs primary room. They can also be used as a flex space. You can use it as a seating area, has a huge walk-in closet. It also has 2 bedrooms upstairs, a large hall bath. And this was built this year. This home sold for $180,000, and it was listed under our 115% annual median income program. And if you have any questions, I'll pass it back over to Elizabeth.
Yeah, that was a lot of information about the resale process. Let's see. The money for down payment.
Yeah, not much questions in the chat. I've answered them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but anyone want to come off mute and ask a question? Okay, I guess we can move on. And again, we'll have time throughout for questions. Oh, Theodore.
Yeah, I have a question. So I think someone earlier asked if we'd be able to look at available properties online. But to piggyback on that question, would we be able to look at properties available in specific areas?
So again, my response in the chat was that, thank you for asking, is that we'll get into that a little bit later in the presentation. But since 2 people have asked, very briefly, I will say that we do not, well, shouldn't say we do not. It is very uncommon for us to list our homes on the MLS. And the reason for that is that our homes go to people in the applicant pool first. If someone in our applicant pool is not interested in the home, then it goes to MLS, but that very rarely happens. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the presentation, but the short answer of it is, can you go online and look for our homes? Typically, no, unless they're in the MLS. You can, however, look at our website and see all of the homes, including the homes that you've seen here. You just see a couple of pictures in this presentation, but those homes, as well as the others, are listed on our website. So you can see the homes there. But again, thank you for asking. You and someone else in the chat asked that, but I'll dig a little bit deeper into that and how that ultimately works when we get into the application process, okay? Which we're getting into right now.
I'd also like to say that we are still experiencing some growing pains with our new website. And so you may find it a little bit difficult to navigate through the archives of our homes. But if there's any that you want to see, just let us know and we can give you the information about it.
Thanks, Flora. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about how to apply for the program. Drum roll. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about if you're ready for home ownership. These are, again, questions if you may want to screenshot this. We talked a little bit about this in the presentation, but let's dig a little bit deeper. So what percentage of my income can I spend on housing? Very important, okay? Because you don't want to get into your home, regardless of where you purchase your home, and paying that mortgage becomes a struggle. So you want to do the numbers of what percentage of your income can you spend on housing. What is your credit score and DTI? DTI again stands for debt to income ratio. While we as an organization do not calculate or pull your credit report or your debt to income ratio, the lenders will do that. So as it stands right now, typically the lowest credit score that you can have is 640, okay? Debt to income ratio, you want to talk to the lenders about because they have their own calculation for that I cannot speak to. I do not want anyone to get discouraged if your credit score is not 640, or if you don't even know what your debt to income ratio is. We are connected to organizations that can help you budget and learn a little bit more about those things. Again, our information will be in the chat that you can talk to us about it if it's something you know in particular that you want to talk to us about. But again, delay does not mean denial. These are just helpful things for you to know moving forward and getting on the journey to home ownership. How much am I currently spending on housing, and how much am I comfortable paying? Those are the things that you want to start asking yourself, okay? How long have I been at my current job? This is very, 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 very important, okay? Because your lender is going to want to see a history of stable income, okay? For most, it may be 3 months. For another, it may be 6 months. It's contingent upon the lenders, but they want to see some continuity there, some stability there, inclusive of like in your income documents as well as your tax documents. So those are things that you want to start pulling together and thinking about. Oftentimes with the job situation, of course, if there's a job that comes along that's going to pay you more money, of course you want to take it, but also be aware of how that may impact your ability to move kind of swiftly with this. Okay, and how much savings do I have for emergencies and maintenance repairs? When you purchase under the MWCLT, you do have a 1-year warranty. However, for the most part, outside of that warranty, and depending on what the repair is, if it's a repair that is because of use, then that's something that you will be responsible for. But your appliances, the big ticket items, are covered under warranty for a year, and then others may still have a longer warranty based on the manufacturer's warranty. But you want to set aside money for maintenance and repairs, okay? The other thing that I want to mention is if you are renting somewhere and you need to leave like tomorrow or even 2 months from now, this is a process. Okay, so it can be difficult to jump from renting into home ownership if you're moving because your lease is up in a couple of months. So I want to manage expectations. Someone asked in the chat, how long does this process take? Especially if you're using down payment assistance from one of our partnering agencies, it can be 45 to 60 days. So I want to make that clear. If you're going through this process, don't leave your lease thinking this is going to be done quick, fast, in a hurry, especially if your lease ends in a couple of months. Okay. You should be looking at this when you're several months out. And in fact, if there's something in particular that you want, okay? So, and when I say that, I mean a particular area or a particular, home or something like that. So I want to manage expectations there. Next slide, please. So we will dig a little bit more into the steps to completing the application, and Shabana will discuss that with you. Shabana?
Thank you, Candace. So we're just going to go over the application process briefly. Some of this we've kind of already gone over, so this will be kind of a refresher. The first thing that we ask folks when they're interested in this program is to attend one of our information sessions, which is the first thing you all are doing, so you can check that off your list. So after attending the info session, we asked folks to apply for mortgage pre-qualification through one of our approved lenders. You all have virtually met Mary and Tanya, who are two of our lenders. I just dropped in the chat a link to our website that shows all of our approved lenders. So once you are able to secure that pre-qual, you will be submitting your application, which includes income documentation. Our website, which I'll drop that link in the chat, has all the information related to the application, and we accept it in multiple ways, whether that's online, via mail, dropping it off at our office. So you have options for that. Then we ask folks to submit their certificate of attendance to a HUD-approved home buyer education course. So this is a course that you're able to take through some of our partner agencies, and usually at the end you get a certificate, and then you provide that as a part of your final application you would submit to us. After that, you will receive a denial or eligibility acceptance email from us after the application has been reviewed. And once you receive the confirmation of eligibility, you are officially in our applicant pool. So that is, I think, what the question in the last question in the chat kind of goes into. So there is, once you filled out these steps and you've successfully received eligibility confirmation, you are officially in the applicant pool. So once you're in the applicant pool, you will be receiving emails and communications from us about homes and properties that are coming through the pipeline. So this isn't like a traditional wait list. So you are part of an approved applicant pool. We do have a buyer prioritization policy that's available on our website. So if more than one person is interested in a property, we use that to help determine who would be putting in an offer for the home. Next slide, please. So just to go into a little more detail about the income documents that are required. So these are just a few things that you can expect to be collecting. And Candace mentioned a few of these. So you need 3 months of your latest pay stub or benefit statement for each adult household member. You'll need 6 months of your bank statements for all of your accounts for all of the adults that would be in the household. Your 2 most recent federal tax returns, and any assets that you would have over $5,000. And again, we accept your full application, including these materials, in multiple formats. So you're welcome to submit this online. You're welcome to mail it or drop it off at our office. We're open Monday through Thursday. Next slide, please. And then, as mentioned before, a lot of folks use down payment assistance. And so these are two organizations that we are highlighting that provide that. And just to keep note in terms of the process, it does generally add a 45 to 60 day additional timeline to closing if you're using down payment assistance.
Let me mention something here as well, Shabana.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good place to answer one of the questions. So these are our partnering organizations that offer down payment assistance. Again, regardless if you guys come through MWCLT or not, it's good for you to go to their websites and get into the classes. Okay, just sign up for the classes. I believe Home's next class, is it until September or October? And some of those slots fill up fast. So if you are interested in down payment assistance, and here's this, even if you're not, someone mentioned the budgeting classes. Even if you're not interested or you don't want or need to utilize down payment assistance, part of the education that they provide is budgeting and the things that you need in the inspection process and just home ownership in general. So they're good classes to take a part of, regardless if you need down payment assistance. You don't need to do the class in both. You can pick one of the organizations to take the class. I just wanted to mention that. Thanks, Shabana.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. And then we can move to the next slide. Just highlighting these organizations that also support home ownership. So we want to, as Candace always says, push you all to your goal, help reach your goal of home ownership, whether that's through our program or not. And so these are other organizations that also do that work. Yeah, that is all for the application side of things. Any questions before we move on?
I believe we do have some in the chat. Let's see. Let me go up some. Okay, Miss Bowling. Hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. You asked about the applicant pool, and Elizabeth did answer that question. I just want to give some additional information around that. So typically when someone thinks applicant pool, they think first come, first serve basis. We're not set up that way. Shabana did mention our buyer prioritization policy, which is set up to give people with the greatest need, put them in alignment, right, to be able to move forward because they have the greatest need. So that is how, if it's more than one person, we figure out who would get that particular home. So again, I want to say applicant pool, but it is not per se a waiting list where it's a lottery or first come, first serve basis. It's not that way. Okay. I hope that makes sense. And as Elizabeth mentioned, offered first to folks in our applicant pool, which brings me to the answer to the other question that was raised. Why can't you see our houses? So the process, or why can't you see our houses online? Some of the other search engines that are utilized to find homes, that's because we do give those homes or present those homes inclusive of pictures to applicants in the applicant pool first. So they're not sent to realtors. They're not on some of the major sites that you see because they go to the applicant pool first. So if you're a realtor on the call, I know there are several outside of Jen first, connecting with Jen Cox, who I'm sure she's put her information in chat, will be good because she can give you a little bit more ins and outs from the realtor perspective. But as a participant or prospective buyer in the applicant pool, we're counting on you to give that information to your realtor to kind of pick through that a little bit more about next steps. But basically, you're in the applicant pool. You will let us know of your interest. You'll work with your realtor. If you don't have one, feel free to contact Jen as well. That can point you in the right direction. And from that point on, you'll set up a time to see the home and it'll move forward from there. Okay. Is there an estimated time on when the Verona homes will begin building? I do not have an estimated time. We are moving forward with the project, but I do not have an estimated time for completion on that. Remember in the past, you could see pictures of inside the homes. Is that feature still available on the website? As Flora mentioned, our website there, we just updated the website. So if you can't see pictures, I do apologize, reach out to us. However, again, as the homes become available, we have professional pictures that are taken and those are sent to people in the applicant pool. So you do have to be in the applicant pool to see the homes as they become available. Otherwise, you will see homes as they are sold or if they hit MLS. How long is the process for pre-qualifying application to owning? So your pre-qual and or approval is through your lender. That's usually not a long process. Owning, it kind of depends on a few different factors, right? So one of which is you may want to live in a particular area. Let's say you want to live in Henrico and our next home available is Richmond. Well, you're free to sit and wait until something presents itself that you're interested in Henrico. We do not kick people out of the applicant pool, so you're free to stay. Is it best to work on your debt to income ratio before you apply for the program? I would say both and. So you always want to work on your DTI, but I can't tell you if your DTI is too high, debt to income ratio, excuse me. If your debt to income ratio is too high, just right. So you want to speak to the lender about that. But it's also good to start getting your documents together if you're interested in applying for this program. There is no program or application fee attached to anything that we do in that regard. As Shabana mentioned, these are our partnering agencies that also have homes for sale. Project Homes, Better Housing Coalition, Habitat for Humanity, and Southside. Okay, I think we are ready for the next slide. Okay, so let's just recap here. And again, feel free to continue to utilize the chat. Basically, owner occupancy. So again, if you purchase through us your MWCLT home, you must live in, okay? No subleasing, no Airbnb. That would nullify your ground lease, meaning that you will be out of terms with your ground lease. So it's very important that you understand that part of the requirement of ownership through Maggie Walker Community Land Trust is that you occupy the home that you've purchased through us. Resale your home will have increased in value based on the area median income. Again, that's AMI. And MWCLT, you cannot resell the home for full market value. So it is a cap resale formula. Okay, and your home will be sold to an income qualified buyer. So someone in the same position as you will have to purchase the home if you do decide to sell. Maintenance and repairs are the responsibility of the homeowner if you're outside of the warranty, or if it's something that is regular maintenance of your home, okay? You are required to be responsible for repairs just as any other homeowner would be. And then lastly, of course, that remodeling piece, you have the right to undertake home improvements, but it must be approved by the board if what you want to do requires a permit. Other than that, any major changes we just want to know about. That is not inclusive of painting or changing certain things, but let's say you want to build a fence or something like that. We want to know about it, probably because you want to make sure you're putting the fence on your property line, okay? So we want to know about those type of changes. And then of course that land lease, homeowners do pay an annual fee of $100 to MWCLT in exchange for the use of the leased land. Okay. So you got heard something. You have a question, okay?
Yes, I have a question. Maybe I missed it in the discussion because I've been taking notes. I know you said that the land is owned by the foundation for 99 plus years or more. Do we have the option after the house is bought in full? Do we have the option to buy the land from you guys?
Good question. At this time, no. And the reason for that is that is how we keep the land in permanent affordability, that the person coming behind you can still afford. So the answer to that right now, as of August 13th, 7:09, is no. That ground lease continues on.
Okay. And really quick, completely unrelated, I tried to Zoom in with you guys, and I lost the connection and I cannot get back in, so I can't see any slides. I can't see the chat. I can't see links. I'm on a phone conference with you all right now. So
okay.
How do I get you guys to know who I am to get credit?
Sorry, I can speak to that really quick. So if you registered in advance, which you likely did, we probably have your contact information, which means we have your phone number and your email, so we can go through and find your email retroactively through your phone number and then send you all the information, including a recording of the session afterward.
Okay, great. Fantastic. My name is Nisha, by the way, with a really long last name. You know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And so we're actually wrapping up kind of early, you all. But the last slide really just talks a little bit more about post-purchase stewardship. Again, you've heard us mention stewardship of the land. And so this is stewardship of the entire program and is very important to us. And so we do seek relationships with our homeowners as partners. We consider this a family. And so we are here as a resource. So once you purchase through us, we don't drop you. We're here to assist or answer any additional questions that you have, and we want to be in constant communication with our homeowners. Again, Shabana, that is her role, to stay connected to you as a homeowner, and maybe even route you into other agencies that may be able to provide any additional resources. So I will pause. Actually, there's one more slide that will list some resources. Someone did ask about DTI, but also, or debt to income ratio, and also about like preparing and looking at if you're ready for home ownership. And Commonwealth Catholic Charities, so that's CCC Credit Counseling, there's the contact information there. For our person on the phone, that number is area code 804-285-5986. Again, you'll get the slides if you didn't capture that. And that is an agency that will help you budget and prepare for home ownership from that perspective. There is also a resource there, a housing resource line. Should you have any additional questions about housing, or if there's another situation that you're facing, some housing instability there, okay? The last slide does show our contact information. You've heard from all of us, from myself, again, I'm Candace. You've heard from Elizabeth, Flora, and Shabana. And so if we could put that last slide up that shows our email information, Elizabeth, feel free to email us any information that you have. Again, the lenders as well as our realtors' information is in the chat. I do see a question. Question to lenders, can you put your information into the chat? We have Mary's information, Tanya. I know further up in the chat, both of their contact information is in there, but you do see Mary's. Tanya, feel free to put it again if you wish. Once we send all of the necessary documents regarding our income, the HUD class, and completing this info session, how long does it take to get pre-qualified? So that is on our end. Give us at least a week or two to income qualify you and to send out the letter to say if you're qualified or not qualified based on the documents. However, the pre-qual and or pre-approval has to come from the lender. We don't provide that. That's from the lender. And that is part of your application, okay? So all of those things need to be in place to get into the applicant pool. Okay, so again, that pre-qual or pre-approval, the pre-approval is going to give you a better scope of where you stand in the homeownership process. That is going to come from your lender, and they don't take a long time to typically to turn that around, but they do have their own documents, for the most part, very similar to ours, that they're going to ask or request from you to do that. Is there an application fee or any other fees to know about? There are some fees once you get into the process. However, we do not have any application fees associated with this or the program. When I say there are other fees, those are fees that your realtor can talk to you about as you move through the process, like your inspection fee for once. For starters, right? That's a fee that you're responsible for. But again, your realtor will talk to you a little bit more about those fees. As it pertains to the program, there are no fees in that regard attached. I will continue to answer questions. However, we do have some other questions. We want to hear from you, some feedback questions about the presentation, and then getting to know a little bit more about where you may want to live. Okay, so I know Flora will put up the survey questions. I believe there are 2 or 3 very short questions, so please answer those when you see those pop up.
My bad, I forgot about that. Hold on.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Yeah. So yes, we're just gonna go right for the quiz, which is not really a quiz, but you know, you're not graded. It's not part of your application. It's just to see how well we did. So please answer these questions that you see on your screen. If you don't see them on your screen, don't worry about it. They're not required. If you don't know the answers, don't worry about it. Just skip it. Yeah, and make sure you scroll down to see all the questions. Anyway.
And so while you're answering that, I do want to mention that on Saturday at Armstrong Renaissance, if you guys are familiar with that, if you're from Richmond, like I am, and you're familiar with Churchill, it is the Armstrong Renaissance is where the original, I shouldn't say the original because it's actually the second, but where Armstrong High School used to be on 31st Street. They will have a financial homeownership, other routes to homeownership event. You are free to come. We welcome you to go. It is not our event, but we will be there. That event is from 10 to 2 o'clock. Again, that is Saturday at Armstrong Renaissance on 31st Street. It's right. Armstrong Renaissance is at the intersection of 31st Street and Now Mile Road. Okay. So please come out if you want to talk to us directly or you have some other questions. Are we assigned a realtor? No, a realtor is your choice. If you scroll up in the chat, and Jen, if you don't, oh, Jen has already put her contact information in. If you could put your number as well, Jen. And Jen you can either utilize Jen or Jen can point you in the direction of someone. So we do not assign realtors. That is, thank you, Shabana, for including the information about the financial fair this weekend. And Shabana, Elizabeth, and I will be there. So again, Andre, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We do not assign realtors. You can use a realtor of your choice. Okay, how are we looking with that poll? And Andrea, Jen's information is in the chat.
Got a few people who have answered. Don't know if anyone else is working on it, but well, it doesn't matter. Let's in the interest
let's go with what we have.
Yeah, in the interest of getting out of here on time. We have first question, which is, are you planning on submitting an application? No wrong answers. We have a good number of people who said yes right away. Some that said soon, maybe not right away, and maybe some more information first. Either way, we look forward to hearing from y'all. First quiz question, true or false, MWCLT homes are fully inheritable. They can be passed down to your heirs regardless of income, as long as they'll use the property as their primary residence. That was true. So most of you got that right. Again, like Candace said, this program is about legacy, and we want you to be able to leave a legacy to your descendants. Next question, what equity will you get back when you sell your MWCLT home? Your down payment, the loan principal you paid off through monthly mortgage payments, your home's increased value, or all of the above? The correct answer was all of the above. Your down payment is your cash equity. The loan principal you paid off through monthly mortgage payments is part of that. And then your home's increase in value also is part of your equity. And then finally, how will your MWCLT home increase in value? Based on the market rate appraisal, based on the increase in the Richmond AMI, or it will not increase in value? And the answer is based on the increase in the Richmond AMI. The market rate appraisal is that really high number that Jen was talking about with all of our homes, where we sell our homes for 180, 200, they appraise for 350, 400, a crazy amount, and then that amount fluctuates wildly based on the real estate market, which, as we all know, can be very volatile. Looking back at events from the last decade. So, to get away from that volatility and to allow your home to increase in value more slowly and more stably, we tie the value to the increase in the average income in the area, which tends to increase much more predictably. So yeah, thank y'all.
All right, thanks, Flora. Well, we want to thank each of you for sharing some time with us tonight. We hope this was informational for you, that you learned something that you didn't know. Again, feel free to reach out to us via email. Our information is there. Feel free to reach out to Jen Cox, our realtor. Feel free to reach out to the two lenders that are on our call today. And their contact information is in the chat. Tanya Irizarry from Virginia Credit Union and Mary White from Town Bank. Again, thank you for your time tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a good evening.
Good night, y'all.